Hi YouTube, Jessie here. Welcome to my channel. You might know me by Jessieology on my Twitch channel or on my other socials, but I am here today to give you a little bit different content that I normally would do, but we're exploring here. Basically, this year I've decided to pursue a bunch of goals that I've been too scared to do, basically, or too scared to start. One of them being finishing Elden Ring. So I just started it, so you'll probably be able to watch my playthroughs, and I'll put a link up here as well. So I'm posting my playthroughs, but I wanted to do a video that might be helpful to people that have never played this game before from somebody's perspective of some from somebody's my perspective as being a total Elden Ring noob. Like what I wish somebody told me right in the beginning. And I feel like there's so much content out there about people telling you what you need to know as a new player, but they're coming from a place of like being an Elden Lord. And I am not an Elden Lord. I am not an Elden Ring expert whatsoever. I am just like 5 hours into the game, so I'm super, super new. But there are some things I wish people told me because I feel like the kind of learning curve of the game is rather high and can be frustrating if you've never played a game like Elden Ring before or like Dark Souls, and I haven't. So I'm trying to give you that perspective. And this is kind of like if you had somebody who's hasn't played an RPG game in a decade, would they like this game? That's what I'm here to tell you. And here are just 10 things I wish somebody kind of explained to me before I started playing. Starting with kind of the most important thing, which is when you choose in the beginning, which is going to be your class. Um, your class, I just honestly chose based on looks the first time, and then I quickly, promptly, I would say, started a new playthrough. I didn't even get like 2 hours into that playthrough. I started a new playthrough. Um, but when you're looking at your class, make sure you choose somebody with more health in the beginning because I think that's kind of like a big barrier. And also look for a class that plays in your play style. Like, would you rather be ranged fighter, doing more magic from a distance, or would you rather be kind of like up in everything and get a really big sword or axe or some type of weapon? So paying attention to that because I think that will kind of determine how you play your game in the future, but it's really just a broad thing. I could get into the nitty gritty of it, but like I said, I'm not an Elden Lord. I'm not an expert, but this is just something I wish somebody told me 2 weeks ago. So, anyways, yes, so choose your class. I think what people say online is like hero's a good one. I'm a vagabond in mine, so I think those are kind of beginner friendly for those of you who have never played before. So, I would start with that. Also, when you're doing the tutorial, read the tutorial because I kind of just rush through it and I like to hack and slash things and just kind of move forward. But read the tutorial. And you are also supposed to die to the bosses in the beginning. There's some baits, like bait bosses, and I'm trying not to give too many spoilers or anything. There's some bait there. So if you do die in the beginning, don't be disheartened at all. Like, that's normal. And just keep going because they will trick you and you will die right away and feel bad about yourself, but please don't feel bad about yourself. Third, kind of going with, it's like 3 and 4. This is the other biggest thing that I didn't understand, was runes. It's basically your currency in the game, and I feel like the tutorial did not do a good job of like explaining runes or like what you use them for. But essentially, going back to number one, which is or number one, which is your class, um, you're gonna use your runes to upgrade different aspects of your character. So vigor is like your health, so you can upgrade that as well with your runes. So your currency is to upgrade, and your runes are important. I just like was running around dying, and every time you die, your runes get basically thrown onto the ground where you died and you can go pick them up again. I didn't care. I was just like, oh, they're gone. Whatever, keep going. No one told me, go get your runes, like you need them to upgrade. So runes are used for upgrading. You upgrade at the grace sites, which I will tell you later. But anyways, I digress. So three is runes, four is farming. And I wish somebody told me this because it kind of goes with runes, but it's like farming your runes because basically when you upgrade your character in the beginning of the game, it's super cheap to get these upgrades. So you want to farm in the beginning, get as many runes as you can. You get runes by beating little skeleton guys. I don't even know the names of the characters, but you basically get runes by killing people. And you'll see the little magic glowy dust go across and like go into your body. You also get them from other things. So there's also runes that you can pick up. Runes that are like on the ground or like in coffins or in different areas of the map. Don't want to give it away. But one thing that I didn't know and my friend told me that really helped was there are runes in the skeletons or the skulls that are on the ground with like glowing eyes. And all you do is like either like trot over them or roll over them and then you can pick up the rune. Based on that, which is also farm, either farm by killing people, farm by looking for runes. Also, when you pick up the runes, they're in your inventory. They don't go to your like rune bank. So you have to like use the runes in your inventory and then put them in it'll go into your rune bank. So that's another thing that I didn't know and I figured out the hard way also from watching people play. The other thing is once you kind of have that down while you're fighting people, figure out your controls and remap your controls into a way that makes it easy for you. Also makes it so you're not accidentally drinking your HP flask because I did that. Also, I really believe playing with a controller is 100% easier unless you've never used a controller before. Obviously, if you've never touched a controller and you're like, what the heck is this? I've never seen this, using it the wrong way, don't use a controller. But if you use a controller at all, use a controller. I think it's way easier to like control your viewpoint and move around. I have a really nice Xbox controller with the paddles on the back, which I really love. But obviously, you don't need that. You can just use the buttons. And also, speaking of map controls, make sure you look at the like how your buttons are mapped out and what they do. I did not know for the first 3 hours of playing this game that I could sprint. You can sprint. Your character can sprint. So there you go. You can sprint. Off of that, speaking of mapping your controls, but also finding the maps in the game. I didn't realize you had to find the maps in the game. I'm not a good I'm not a good player in the sense that I like to hoard things. I'm a horrible hoarder. But you can find the maps and that's really good for you to like find parts of like where you're standing. You'll have a map automatically, but it'll just be all brown and grayed out. What you want to do is like actually find the map locations. You can totally cheat. I won't judge you for cheating and looking up online where they are, but up to you. That's also something to focus on. Finding the maps, because this is super helpful to pin where things are and kind of you can see like where the main storyline is leading you. That being said, the map is really important because you can fast travel and you can also fast travel once you unlock this one area to upgrade your weapons. I probably should have talked about this more when I was talking about the runes and upgrading parts of your character and your class, but you can also use runes to upgrade your weapon. Weapons are a whole nother thing, and I just wish somebody had told me like your weapon goes with your class. Obviously, in a lot of video games it does, but you can kind of focus, like once you find a weapon that you like, you can upgrade that weapon with runes. And the game will lead you to that point where you figure out how to upgrade things, but that's just something I wish I knew. And also ranged attacks, there's ranged attacks that you can do, but using like a bow and arrow and stuff like that is mad hard, just so you know. As from beginner to beginner, it's really hard. That being said, having, throwing knives or darts or something where you can just lock onto an enemy, this is number 8, all about flying enemies and flying stuff. Having darts or something that you could do a range attack with and kill those flying enemies is so useful if you're being like a strength character, because like your sword won't reach up to the sky and you have to get really good at like jump hitting. So that's another thing. Flying stuff, try to get some weapons that you can throw at people. The other thing is where you can get these weapons from is number 9, which is Santa Claus, aka the merchants. So that's another thing that I didn't really pay attention to is the merchants. I just kind of was like, here's some stuff to sell. You obviously sell them for your runes, which are great. The runes are your currency, but you also can buy craftable cookbooks. And this is really great for creating weapons that can kill flying stuff. So that's just something what I wish I knew, because I was like, I'm having a lot of trouble killing these enemies that are flying around because I have a giant axe or I have a giant sword. The last, but not least, aside from merchants buying the cookbooks, that way you know how to use all of the things that you're gathering up, but also is the graces, finding the lost graces. And I think you can kind of like when you get your map, like I said earlier, see kind of how the dispersion pattern is, and it gets kind of easier to like find out where they are. Um, when you rest at a great, like it says this in the tutorial, but I just like it didn't click for me. So that's why I'm telling you. Your graces are kind of like a home base where you can upgrade your character, you can increase your flasks, all that stuff. They do a pretty good job about explaining flasks, but that's where you can get your upgrades. Every time you rest at a grace site, though, those enemies show back up. So you're not really like through the game, you just kind of reset it. And that's why it's so great for farming. You can just kill a bunch of enemies, sit back down, kill a bunch of enemies, sit back down, and just really farm a bunch of runes in the beginning if you really want to level up your character. If you feel like you're not attuned enough to defeat the bosses right in the beginning. I think that's super, super helpful to think about that. Anyways, guys, those are the 10 things I really wish I knew just right off the bat when I started from a beginner to a beginner. I just feel like I never hear beginners talk about their own personal experiences with difficult games, because it's always like experts telling you like what they wish they knew, but sometimes it's hard to remember what it was like being a total noob. So I hope you guys enjoy. I hope it helps you all become a good Elden Lord right from the beginning. I'm still on my journey. If you guys want to watch my playthrough, which is honestly just a lot of me losing my runes, falling down, and going the wrong way on the maps, you can check out the rest of my channel. I am so glad you're here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.